Welcome to Rauta and a new video series called Challenging the Classics. Now this is not so good mood series in terms of I will pick an album or another release which could be considered and would be considered a classic by so many people, but for some reason or another I might have an issue with it. Call me Negative Joe or just one of those angry metal guys on YouTube, but I'm gonna challenge this time Dissection Reinkaos album because in my opinion it's not that good, even though many people seem to praise it. Now why on earth would I be even listening to it? Because I don't like it that much. Well, it all started when I was doing a classic review, that is one of those really positive reviews videos about Storm of the Light Spain album from 1995. And then I decided to kind of refresh my memory. Why on earth did I sell my copy of Reinkaos away only after a few weeks or a couple of months after I had bought it fresh 2006? Now I decided when I was driving, like, okay, let's open Spotify, let's tune in for Reinkaos. After all, it's been like 15 years almost since I had heard the album before. And I was like, okay, I remembered it to be not that good. Decent, but not really good, not worth owning. I remember it selling away rather quickly. So I decided to give it another go. Maybe times would have made it better. Maybe I was just, remembering it all wrong. Maybe I had grown as a human being. What a joke, man. I don't grow as a human being. Sorry, I'll take that back. I might grow as a human being, but will it do any good for certain kind of albums? No. And that's a little bit later than it is. I got this idea. Maybe I should actually talk about albums that so many people are worshipping, but I have problems. Maybe it will bring hate. Who cares? After all, we're just merely challenging these certain kind of classic albums, and you will have your word later on about it. What would be the next one? I have a couple of ideas, but for the sake of piloting the idea, let's start with Reinkaos. Now, people who remember my Storm of the Light Spain album probably are aware that for me it's one of those 10 out of 10 albums. Really, it's that good. Now that I was listening to it after Reinkaos, I was pretty much like, how on earth the band changed so much in mere 10 years? Well, 11 if you count that, the release date. The point is, from that high I cannot even reach to being like just an okay album. Now, before this video, I wanted to also remind myself, how was I thinking about the somber line? Like how it would feel nowadays, because it's been quite a few years since I've listened to that one. And the reason is this: not only am I really busy with my review albums, but also because, I kind of lost my copy. I think it's still, borrowed by an old pal of mine, and it never got returned. So it has been probably adventuring past 20 years or so. I don't know if I will ever get it back, but that's beside the point. Now, I was giving a Spotify run for that one as well, and it was as good as I remember to be. That is, all of these three albums were as good or as not good as I remember to be. Storm of the Light Spain being this 10 out of 10, the Somber Lane being something like 8 out of 10. So good, but not superior, not amazing. And the Reinkaos is more like, okay, it's pretty okay, but not beyond 7 out of 10. Now I remember going this album back in the days already. It's like In Flames with pentagrams. Technically speaking, of course, that cover has nothing to do with pentagram as such, but point aside, Jon Nerdved, may he rest in peace, may he rest in power, whatever you want to call it, was obviously very much invested in misanthropic, well, more like satanic studies, let's call it this way. And he was very much invested in mentally and other ways, in these kind of, let's call them groups instead of clubs, mindset, if you will, philosophical ways, if you will. Doesn't really matter. The point is, he was very deep into that kind of stuff. He wasn't some Sunday morning Satanist, like 6 days a week being this regular Joe, taking out the trash cans and whatever, and then on Sundays, I'm very much into this kind of stuff. Anyway, his life ended way too early. I think he was a really gifted songwriter. He was at least what I've understood, somewhat smart person, even though that ended up made him go to the prison. Not in that smart in that ways, but this is not about slandering Jon Nödved. I think he was a brilliant songwriter, he was a good guitar player, he was a good vocalist and all that stuff. And I guess a really good friend to some people out there. But his life ended way too soon. And there were some macabre jokes about like, maybe he ended his life because he figured out Reinkaos is the weakest Dissection album so far. I know that is a harsh thing to say. That's a joke. And those things happened way like back 15, 14 years ago. Now the thing is, why I have this issue, why I'm challenging the album in the first place is like, I wouldn't mind the whole album if it was done in some other name. If it wasn't the legacy of Dissection after the amazing Storm of the Lightsbane album. But after such a masterpiece, going to do an album which is more like In Flames but with more satanic lyrics isn't gonna cut it. No, to be realistic here, I'm not gonna be this angry guy who just yells at everything and gonna be calling everything here shit, because it's not a shitty album. It's just a big disappointment. So in terms of about, production, well, it kind of serves its purpose. And, guitars sound clean and nice. Yes, that's what In Flames was doing before they changed into metalcore. And don't get even started about In Flames. That's a horrible band compared to what they were back in the 1990s. Dissection didn't go that far, but still too far, in my opinion, once again. Now, production-wise, like I said, it's pretty much what you would expect in the terms of, say, a band that is doing its music for a big label. Even though, at this point, Dissection wasn't even Nuclear Blast band anymore, but it could have been. It could have been one of those kind of In Flames kind of bands, the ones coming from Gothenburg area or whatever, and, doing kind of a nice, easy-to-approach, mainstream melodic metal, black metal or otherwise. If you just remove the context of lyrics and ideological sides, you could really put these into the same box, melodic death metal or just melodic metal. I mean, they both have raspy vocals, they both have kind of similar sound, and to a certain degree, even the riffs and melodies are somewhat the same. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me on that, and it's totally fine, by the way. Actually, I was hoping for that. Now, some people, I had this already, on Facebook as a conversation, and some people were already saying like, yeah, Jerry, you're so wrong, you don't just get it, it's really an album. And some people were, it's a big disappointment, being way more harsh than me. And this alone proves that this isn't an album without its problems. Also, we could say that, taking a look at this Metal Archives thing here, going for the reviews here, 73%, not bad if you ask me, with 22 reviews. It should tell you something. It's not only me who is thinking like, this is roughly 7 out of 10. So if I was to click this one, and now I even can't back up, you will find 35% review. What the hell? I couldn't be this harsh, never. This is not a bad album, like I said. But you will find also albums like 80%, 100%. This alone should give you an indication this album is dividing people into different, boxes. Some people will almost like hate it. Some people worship it. And for me, it's like disappointment, but not that bad. Now that I was once again giving it another listen, like 3 listens or so within 15 years, to me it seemed like the big drop down was, if not only with the melodies going more about In Flames direction or territory, but also losing this kind of our dark feeling which was very much present with Storm of the Lightsbane. It isn't even about losing the catchiness here. It is just like being a different band altogether. Like nothing really here sounds the same. Well, maybe that's a kind of an overstatement, but point aside, to put it here in the Dissection concept, I feel like, The Somberlane was a really good debut album. It already laid about some, foundations for the band, had acoustic guitar parts, had these interesting melodies, but it was more about flirting with death metal. And with Storm of the Lightsbane, it was way more going to this territory of melodic black metal, having really sinister parts, but at the same time being super catchy. Nice vocals, cool lyrics, even cool cover image, and that applies to the Somberlane. But with Reinkaos, it is all like flushed, all gone. And what we have here is just an album that could have been basic, rather okay, a debut album. So why I decided to challenge this album is I have a personal problem with it. I can't really enjoy it that much. Like I said, once again, it doesn't bother me if it's played. But would I even come to back to this if it wasn't for a reason that should just give this comparison between two other albums? Not so likely. And sometimes I really, when I wonder, like, why would I go back to albums which I sold years and years ago? And I can't get any other reason but to just get this comparison done. So for me, Reinkaos was a big, big disappointment. But now that after 15 years, nothing really had changed. It wasn't worse, it wasn't better how I remembered it to be. Just a kind of a meaningless album for me. And I kind of feel sorry for the whole band, as well as Jon Nødtved, that this was the last piece of legacy that was given to be after the band decided to call it quits and after Jon Nødtved was gone. So, give me all your negativity or positivity or whatever you feel like saying about this album or this video. I'm gonna do more about challenging these so-called classics one. There are plenty of albums which I've sold over the years because after all I didn't feel like they're that great, even though some people are like saying it's a 5 out of 5, it's a 10 out of 10. How can you say like that? And that's the part of this whole video series. Now, feel free to drop me the thumbs whatever way you want to do, but more so, I would rather hear from you with comments. What do you think about, first of all, about this album? Secondly, about the video series, Challenging the Classics. Also, as a third request, I would hope you to do, vote what would be the next one. I probably will do the next one without your voting, but maybe I will pick the one. So also remember to vote your other people's suggestions. What would be the next one for Challenging the Classics? Could it be one of those older albums? Could it be Emperor's Anthems album? Could it be something else? Vote, do those recommendations or suggestions for Challenging the Classics series, and who knows, your suggestion might end up this video series. Meanwhile, take care and listen to some good shit.